Hello, chronic illness warriors. Dawn Super here from Going Beyond Coping and Positively Narcolepsy on Facebook. I have not done a video since February, and this is my first one. So be patient with me because I haven't done one in a long time. Today, I want to talk about practicing humaning for symptom management. That's really the crux of all the things that I've been talking about on my YouTube channel and my blog and on the Positively Narcolepsy page, is examining the things outside of medication, diet, and exercise that can help you cope with chronic illness. Because it's not easy to cope with chronic illness, and I think a lot of us don't realize how much the mundane everyday things drag us down and make everything harder for us to deal with. If you've never watched any of my videos, I've had narcolepsy, cataplexy, 2 movement disorders for 39 years. I also have 2 pain disorders, Sjogren's, TMJ. I have a laundry list. It's a long one. And through the work that I've done on myself and in my own head, I was able to change my perspective on a lot of things, and that's why I make these videos. So today I want to talk about practicing. So with sports, music, math, a new language, driving, we know that those are things that get better by doing them. Better is subjective here. I'm only good at one of those, but I haven't practiced them. I can't say I can't play the violin because I've never really tried to. I might be very good at the violin, who knows? You can look at a lot of things in life like that. I don't have any confidence. It's something that you can learn, like the piano or the violin, where you identify what it is to be confident to you, and then you practice it. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. There are a lot of things. I'm going to look down because I have notes. Like I said, it's been a long time since I did this. There are a lot of things you wouldn't think you'd have to practice, like listening. Had to work on that one. Breathing. Who knew there were so many different things about breathing? Like, most people think, oh, it's automatic. You automatically breathe and it happens. But have you ever done the thing, do you breathe through your chest or do you breathe through your belly? Because changing that to belly breathing, which I learned in Lama's class, changes a lot of things for you inside of your body, the way you take in the oxygen and the way it flows through your body. So focusing on becoming a belly breather rather than a chest breather can literally change your life. Deep breathing versus shallow breathing. I've always been a shallow breather, and it's something that you can actively practice of breathing more deeply, and your automatic nervous system might keep you being a shallow breather. But if you're intentionally deeper breathing on your own, you're supplementing your oxygen, which can change your life. Nose versus mouth breathing. Do you breathe through your nose most of the time, or do you breathe through your mouth most of the time? There are videos I've seen on YouTube where breathing through your mouth can really set you back, and breathing through your nose can change your face and your physiology, all kinds of stuff. It's really interesting if you go looking. But unless you're actively looking for things that might improve your life, you're not going to find those kind of things. So if you're a person with chronic illness, actively be seeking silly, simple things that can change your life outside of diet, medication, and exercise. So trust is something that you have to practice. You may have had a string of bad relationships, and you want to turn things around. So you've identified some things that kept you from having good relationships in the past, and you want to try and apply them to your new relationship. And for me, I would see behaviors from previous relationships and I would full on panic mode, not giving in to the fact that it's two different people. So two different people can do the same thing or something similar, and it doesn't mean the same thing, because the whole of the relationship is different. So if you want to trust someone, you have to actively practice that. You have to, for me, I had to say to myself, if this goes south, it goes south, but I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt until then. And if it turns out being that I was a fool for doing that, then so be it. Because I don't want to live my life not trusting. I want to give the trust and hope that the person lives up to it. And if they don't, that's really on them. It's not on you. You want to be a trusting person, holding boundaries and not being a doormat. But yeah, it's something that you have to actively practice doing, or it won't change. There were a lot of things that I had to practice. In fact, I have a whole video series called What Happens If I Don't. A lot of this stuff did not come naturally to me. I spent my childhood fairly isolated, and I had terrible social skills, and books were my only friends. And I had to actually learn how to have social skills and how to be a good friend. And you wouldn't think that was something that you would have to teach yourself to do, but under circumstances of isolation and coping with things like being tired all the time and the mimicking and ridicule that comes from that, abusive situations, a lot of things are introduced to our lives because of what I consider our inability to see it on its own. And that, I'm not speaking for everyone, obviously. I've only lived my own life, but I've seen it over and over again where you're so depleted and you're working so hard on endurance that the other things just escape you. You're hyper-focused on just existing. And so the extra things, they take more bandwidth than you have, I guess is a good way to say that for me. That's how it was for me. And that may be how it is for you. And that's why I'm making these videos. So if this resonates with you, then you can maybe try some of the things that I talk about and in your own way, put them through the you filter and apply them to you. Because the good news is you can teach an old human new tricks. No matter how old you are, it's never too late to try learning to be different, to human different, to pilot your faulty meat suit different. It's growth. Like every day you can try new things to help improve your experience on this planet. Some things I had to practice that were life-changing. Not yelling. This is a constant practice. I have a big mouth and I'm super passionate about stuff. And I would often get into heated conversations with people and find my voice raising automatically. I wasn't trying to yell. It's almost like I couldn't help it. But really that's an excuse. If you say, oh, I can't help but yell, it's an excuse. So I had to practice not yelling. And for me, that looked like being quiet and just not having the conversation right then because I was too impassioned about it. And I knew if I continued on that path, I would blow it up. Boom. So yeah, I don't yell as much anymore. I do still yell, but I try to catch myself earlier. I try to notice, with narcolepsy, for me, and from what I've seen in the groups and the other people, there's a quick to temper, like a flash in the pan. And it's almost like a chemical reaction because it happens so fast and so sudden and it comes on like uncontrollably. And for me, noticing that really made all the difference. Noticing like it's almost like a barometer inside of me where I feel it. And then I am able to see it and stop it. And that really, huge difference in my life, to not let myself get that angry, to calm myself down and rationalize with my tired brain that what I was getting mad about didn't deserve the level of escalation. I did a video about that, 5 rules for arguing with narcolepsy. If anger is one of your issues, whether you have narcolepsy or not, if you are sleep deprived, it might be a good video for you to watch. There's a companion piece to read on the blog at goingbeyondcoping.com. Not talking too much as I sit here 10 minutes into a video. A lot of people, I like to talk, and I put my stuff out like on Facebook, my musings and my thoughts about life, and that's my way of interacting with the world. And a lot of people have expressed to me that the way that I express things help them. So I do these videos, and it saves me a lot of time because I want to say the same thing to multiple people, and I can now direct them to a video, so I don't need to do all the talking again. Meeting new people, for me, I still have to practice. If I meet someone new and interesting, I have motor mouth, There's so much information to share, especially if you really connect with the person and you're going back and forth. And I miss a lot of social cues still after practicing to look for them and whatnot. So sometimes I'll shut the talking down whether or not I think the person still wants to hear, and I'll have them ask me for more, and that helps me discern if they really want to hear my story or not, because people act like they want to hear what you're saying, but they give subtle cues that they really don't. And if you have trouble with that, talking too much, it helps to read about it and watch videos about it, about how to not do that. Not taking my anger out on people who woke me up. This is something in my 20s I had terrible trouble with, like swearing at my grandma, terrible trouble with. In my defense, I didn't know it was my grandma, but still, you don't answer the phone that way. It's not nice. And in that moment, you don't care. You're, boom, blowing up that bridge. So for me, what that looked like was, if something woke me up, I had to say, don't get mad, don't get mad, don't get mad. And I feel that barometer, they feel the anger, the chemical response to being awakened coming up in me. And I just talk to myself. I talk myself through it. And I try to isolate, like be quiet, stick in my phone so I don't, give no daggers with my eyes. I don't want people to feel bad that they woke me up, because it's not always their fault. Like one time my husband made toast. It was like the middle of the night and he's making toast. He has really bad insomnia, but he also has no sense of smell. So he had no idea that toast would fill the whole house with yummy toast smell. And then before you know it, you're like, oh, wow, that smells really good. It's time to get up now. And it's 2:00 in the morning. And I did go to the railing upstairs and yell, are you making toast? I was just kind of incredulous and also angry. But then I went back to sleep so that I didn't say anything else, because it's hard to control. It is. If you have sleep disorders, a lot of pain, if you finally got to sleep and you finally are getting some reprieve from the agony of being awake, it's super easy to get angry when someone disrupts that. So you have to practice not getting angry. Confidence, I did a video on that one. Being calm. Being calm is an active choice. You have to actively choose to remain calm. especially if in an argument or dealing with small children. It's conversation that you can have with yourself and practice staying calm, calming your autonomic response if you have that. I get the slamming heart, the shaking hands, and really actively working on calming yourself down can help prevent an episode. I mean, that's why I'm talking about all this stuff. It's not to make you a better person, which will happen by default, but doing these, not to say that you're not a good person. Let me back that up just a sec there. I work on stuff every day actively, so I'm not trying to say anyone who doesn't isn't a good person, but you can have a better experience as a human if you look at the things inside of yourself that you feel are not where you want them to be, and then you actively work on changing them. That's a better way to say that. Not gossiping or being nosy or being needy or breaking someone's confidence regardless of the reasons. Those are all things I had to practice. Some other things that can be practiced if you do these things and you want to change your life. Just giving you some ideas. Not lying, being kind, smiling as a rule or a habit to infect yourself with happiness and as a byproduct infect those around you. It's harder now with the masks that we all have to wear, but you can still see a smile in someone's eyes, so do it anyway. Empathy for other people. This is a two-way street, right? So you want people to have empathy for you, so you have to have empathy for them. So if someone's coming at you and they are not being empathetic, you can look at them with empathy, thinking how hard it must be to not have proper empathy, to see the world in such a way that you really believe the things that you're saying, and the things that you're saying are hurting other people. To feel sorry for that person in that way and see that they just don't get it. They just don't get the difference that being kind makes. And that's their shortcoming, not yours. Because when you live your life with kindness and you act with kindness, it improves your life, regardless of how the people respond. Loving yourself, oh God, that took me a few decades. Even liking myself took a really long time. But once I did, it opened the door to loving others better and liking others more. Tolerance for others, whether it's the typical things of tolerance that are discussed, or just tolerance to their inability to see things the same way you do. Not judging anyone, including yourself, especially yourself. If you stop judging yourself for all the BS that you can't do, you'll stop judging other people as well, because what's good for you is good for them, and that's really the do unto others thing right there. Not feeling bad about yourself. That is something that you have to practice. If you're in a moment where you're feeling bad about yourself, you can literally have a conversation about why you're feeling bad about yourself. What can you do about it? What's good about you that could replace the thing? Sorry, I have Sjogren's and my eyes are really dry. Yeah, a touch of my face, that's me. I did a hand sanitizer first before I came in here, so that's my excuse. All right, letting go of trauma, be it childhood trauma or another trauma. I'm not a doctor or a mental health professional, but I did have a lot of trauma in my life, and seeing it through the lens of like a movie scene really helped me with that, seeing it as it was a character in a story that it happened to, rather than it was me, because I'm not the same person that I was when it happened to me, so I'm able to do that. If you do have trauma, PTSD, be kind to yourself about that. It's something that you have to work through in your own way. No one can really tell you what any kind of magic pill for that is. You just have to keep experimenting. What happens if I don't do this? What happens if I do that? And see if you can affect change in your symptom management. Accepting a lifelong diagnosis. That's really tricky. I used to listen to this meditation that was, thank you, God, for making me just as I am. And I really railed against that for a very long time. And what it all came down to is, this is how I got here. This is what I got. This is the meat suit that was assigned to my soul to live in while I'm on this planet. And I just gotta keep writing my instruction manual to figure out the best operating tactics for this particular model. That's it. You got what you got. And feeling bad about it is a bit of a fool's errand, because when you feel bad about your chronic illness gets worse. Your symptoms get worse. Being down and sad, it makes things worse. Changing your eating habits is something you have to practice. I went autoimmune paleo about 4 years ago, and I had to actively every day choose the right thing and actively every day resist the things that I knew were going to make my symptoms worse. And it took a lot of practice and meal prep. If you don't meal prep as a person with chronic illness, really seriously think about doing it. Spending 2 hours in the kitchen on Sunday to eat 5 days in the week, for me, it was incredibly life-changing. Not reacting to people's dumb questions. I think that's a post I see a lot in every kind of chronic illness group that I'm in. So-and-so said something insensitive. So-and-so asked me a dumb question. So-and-so thinks that blah, blah, blah. Working on your reaction to other people's opinions will serve you greatly in your battle with your chronic illness. I'm rubber, you're glue, right? Like, we say those things for children, but we forget to apply them to ourselves as adults. If someone can say to a child, you're ugly, and oh, it's just words, it doesn't mean anything, then let's grow up 30 years from there and say the same thing. Someone's calling you a name or saying you're lazy or whatever. They're just words, and you can reject them. I have some videos about that. What happens if I don't accept the judgment of others is a good one in that regard. But when people ask you dumb questions, the process that your body goes through as you hear the question, think about the question, pay attention to that, right? Like, someone says, I'm tired too, and you have narcolepsy. So do you get a rose of adrenaline through your chest when someone says that? Do you have a physical response to their saying they're tired too? And insert whatever. 1 second, sorry. Almost done here. Insert whatever that is that they're coming to you with. Anything. It can be anything that they're coming to you with. And think of your job as solely to control the response that you have to their words. So if they say something, try practicing different techniques to prevent the physical reaction to other people's words. It seems so simple, but it's really not. It's actually quite challenging. Many years ago, now I realized that I had trouble answering questions, and I tried to figure out what it was that kept me from doing that. And eventually I realized that I had a parent that would punish me physically when I did finally answer the question. And so it kept me from answering questions. And as an adult, far removed from the situation that created that response, I was able to work with it, and people would ask me a question and I would have a conversation with myself. This is not the same scenario. You're not going to be punished for answering this question. Just go ahead and answer. And it turned into this extreme thing where people ask me questions even sarcastically and I automatically answer them. So I have a tendency to have that duality a lot in my life. But you do have to practice things that are slowing you down or making you feel bad. For some people, those things might come naturally, and some things may and some things may not. We're all so incredibly different, even though we're all human beings. I think that it's a minority that you can automatically be a good listener or automatically do things, because the world would be very different if everyone was striving to be kind and calm and feel good about themselves. It would be a very, very different world. And while we can't change the world, we can change ourselves and let that be a guide to those who look up to us, to be a person who's kind and calm and cares about the well-being of other human beings, tries to make it better. Okay, so it's one thing to identify something that you have to change. Like, I knew about boundaries forever, but until you apply them, you're not going to get anywhere with them. Like I said, I knew about them, but I never actually said no. And I did try to say no, and it was rejected, and I accepted that. So the practice of having boundaries is holding your no, essentially. So that's essentially it, is you do have to practice changing the things about yourself that keep you from having the experience that you want to have on this planet. If you don't like yourself, that's something you have to actively try to change. If you're lonely, if you feel isolated, if you feel like you're not good enough, if you feel like you can't go on, if you feel like no one likes you, all of those things can be examined, and you can watch videos and read books and talk to people about it. You can engage with people about it and try some things that might change your situation. It's practice. That's it. I hope you have a great day. I hope that you're practicing self-care in these challenging times. Practice. That's what it's all about. Make it a great day, warriors. The choice is always yours.